This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunana. Now, in this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight is part 2 on our special series on medical marijuana. And joining us now is the founder of the Medical Cannabis Research Center, Mr. Chuck Manansala. Chuck, welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Good evening, and thanks for inviting me.
A pleasure to have you here. We had such a nice talk last week with your colleagues, Kimi Prado and Romeo Ballesteros of the Philippine Cannabis Compassion Society.
Yeah, I'm also a member of that organization. I'm a member of their executive committee.
Okay. So, to get the ball rolling, let's talk about your background. Tell us a bit about who Mr. Chuck Manansala is.
Well, I studied at the University of the Philippines in Diliman, and then I'm also an ex-detainee.
Wow, okay.
During the martial law years, I was detained in Fort Bonifacio and in Camp Crame.
Activist.
And I am an activist. And I was the one among those who filed in the Human Rights Claims Board.
Oh, wow.
So I say this only to put into context my interest in delving into social issues like cannabis. Because as I progressed, I got into business, and I've been an entrepreneur and a corporate executive. But towards my later, about 10 years ago, I started to gain interest in health and wellness advocacy. I was here before in GNN to talk about the importance of non-toxic products for the home, because of the use of a lot of toxic chemicals. So that was the first time I was here. Now I'm glad I'm here again to talk about another issue that's very close to my heart. Yes. About 4 years ago, I started looking for a substitute for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs because I have an impaired liver, and I don't want my kidney to be damaged. First time I saw it in the internet, the always appearing search term would be pain, you get marijuana.
Yes.
So I did use marijuana when I was in college. If you did not use it, you were out. So it was
think it's part of the college
It
experience.
was part of the college experience, yes. And the Dangerous Drugs Act was not yet enacted at that time, that was enacted in 1972. So in 1970, you don't get caught with using marijuana.
Yes, yes.
So it was a pretty benign situation at that time. And I am not afraid of marijuana because I know that the worst thing that will happen to you is that you get happy. And then you eat a lot of food.
Now,
So,
before we talk about effects, let's talk about your work with the Medical Cannabis Research Center.
yeah.
What is
Right.
this?
So when I got interested in cannabis and then I met the mothers of the children with epilepsy, I decided that maybe we should make this a little bit more organized. So I decided to focus on organizing scientists, doctors, and lawyers into the Medical Cannabis Research Center. So within our organization, we have some doctors, doctors who specialize in toxicology,
Okay.
doctors who are into clinical research, and lawyers who are into constitutional law, so that we could address the issues of marijuana in a higher level on the basis of science, compassion, and human rights.
And very good because I understand from your colleagues at the Philippine Cannabis Compassion Society that there is a House bill that your organizations are supporting.
Yeah.
And very, if it does pass into law, it will be very groundbreaking, I would say, no?
Yeah, it's going to be a groundbreaking law because it will create the structure for the Philippines and for legitimate Filipino patients to have access to cannabis in a legal but highly regulated environment that will produce safe medicine that is always available.
At the moment, I understand from your colleagues that there is a lot of people are asking for this. I mean, especially those with ailments or children with ailments, and apparently at present there is no recourse for them because it's currently illegal.
Yeah,
No?
there is recourse, but that is through the underground.
Yeah, there.
We are aware that there are a lot of sick people, especially those with cancer and with multiple sclerosis, and some epileptic patients are accessing cannabis oil produced by people who are working underground.
Yun nga. So it's very unregulated. So
It's very
it's also not safe
unregulated.
in that sense.
It's
no?
not safe.
Yeah.
And these people who are producing it are doing it out of the goodness of their heart. In most cases, what we hear is that they are giving it away for free. They are not making money out of it.
Amazing, huh?
So it
Amazing.
is a lot. There is a lot of compassion in this world because when you start seeing patients suffer, I'm sorry to mention this, but I had a sister-in-law who I saw suffer from cancer. It's not a pretty sight.
My late father passed away with cancer, so I know firsthand what it is like. I mean,
Yeah,
it really is gut-wrenching for the family and also very painful for the patient.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. So the Medical Cannabis Research Center, we intend to make this the main and principal institution that will do serious research on cannabis in the Philippines.
Now, Chuck, why is it, and I asked your colleagues last week the same question, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. Why is it that there is such a big opposition to marijuana/cannabis?
Because
Where is it
there
coming
is-
from?
Yeah, there has been since 1937, a non-stop demonization of cannabis, starting with changing the term. Before it was known as cannabis, now it's known as marijuana. That was introduced in 1937
Okay.
by a bureaucrat in the United States named Harry Ansler.
Yeah, because cannabis is the scientific
Cannabis
name, right?
is the scientific
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
There are two basic strains, cannabis sativa and cannabis indica,
Okay.
both of which in the period before 1937, for about 100 years,
Wow.
it has been known as medicine. But not only as medicine, but as patent medicine sold in pharmacies
Look at
and
that.
prescribed
Nice,
by doctors for migraine, for a lot of other ailments.
So why the demonization? I mean, it was effectively treating people for, as you said, 100 years. And even I did some research, and I understand even the Greeks and the Romans used it as a, as
The
a
earliest
medical,
recorded
yeah.
use of marijuana was about 3,000 years ago.
Yes,
The
yeah.
earliest mention was about 5,000 years ago. The Chinese, the Egyptians
Yes, yeah.
are using this for, and even the Ayurvedic system of medicine uses cannabis. So it is a very helpful and medically potent.
So why the shift?
Plant.
I mean, so why the shift?
In
Why the concerted effort to try to make to try to demonize it?
the United States is mainly responsible for this, starting with the prohibition of opium and then the prohibition of alcohol.
Okay.
And then finally, they did not prohibit marijuana because it was medicine.
Okay.
What they did is they created the Marijuana Tax Act. You cannot grow marijuana if you don't have the stamp. What they did was they did not issue
Give you the stamp.
So effectively, they banned it. But then, when World War II came in, they needed rope.
Yes.
They needed hemp.
Hemp.
Their main source of hemp in the United States was the Philippines. But the Philippines was invaded
By
by
the
Japan.
Japanese, yes.
The hemp was cut off.
Okay.
So they had to begin cultivating again hemp
Okay,
in the
okay.
United States. So
Okay.
they even put out a short film on that, Hemp for Victory. After the war, they made it illegal again. So
So you mean to tell me, if the Americans were sourcing their hemp from the Philippines, it means that we have a lot of marijuana here.
I suspect that is why there is marijuana here in the Philippines. Probably it was because of the cultivation of hemp
For the need for the Americans.
for the Americans
Yes,
and
yes.
for the manufacture of rope
Okay.
and canvas.
Yes, yes.
Canvas, which is a very strong material, the name canvas is derived from cannabis, which is the source of canvas.
Interesting. How
Yeah, that's
interesting.
the
I
source
never
of
knew that.
canvas. There's a
Interesting.
lot of fiber in hemp. It's very, very strong.
Yes.
But I suspect after the war, and they had to find another form
Yes, yeah.
of fiber for rope, they started using abaca.
Abaca. Okay.
So
Which
abaca
we also have a
became
lot
the
of.
substitute, which is
Which also
also
we-
a very,
yes.
a very strong.
Now, question, in the Philippine setting, what is causing all this? How come there's so much opposition to marijuana? Where did it come from? I mean, okay,
So-
U.S. we understand, but
Yeah.
here in the
So
Philippines,
because it's always related to the U.S. The U.S. now instigated with other countries a international convention to prohibit the use of controlled substances or dangerous drugs.
yeah, oh, okay,
This came into fruition in 1961 when the United Nations collected all the laws and created a single document called the United Nations Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs,
okay,
which bounded a lot of countries who signed the treaty.
okay.
The Philippines is
Kasama,
one.
we were one of them. Okay.
And that's why we got into this prohibition. But very few people realized it. The United Nations Single Convention did not prohibit the use of marijuana for medicine and scientific purposes. What it prevented was the illicit traffic in these dangerous drugs.
Okay.
Because there was no period in time where people did not agree that marijuana was medicine. Until today, if you look into the Dangerous Drugs Act,
Okay.
it recognizes marijuana as medicine. In fact, in Section 16, you will see that there is a provision that is hidden inside a bigger provision that says that, however, in the case of
Marijuana.
of
Cannabis.
research centers and medical laboratories
Yeah.
who will cultivate marijuana for medical and scientific purposes, the Dangerous Drugs Board will prescribe the policies for cultivation, growing, handling, and disposal of these plants, including, this includes opium or coca leaves. The
okay.
three dreaded plants,
Okay.
opium, coca leaves,
Coca
from
leaves.
which you derive cocaine, and of course marijuana.
Now, okay, to lump marijuana together with opium and cocaine, I mean, is that fair? To put it
definitely it's
together,
not,
right?
because,
I mean, the first two are pretty bad. I mean, it's serious drugs.
Right.
But why is marijuana included in the dangerous, considered a dangerous drug?
it's all part of the ideology of prohibition. Because again, the United States will be indicted here. During the time of President Nixon, he authorized a study to create a government program on what to do with marijuana. The study, which he commissioned, composed of top scientists and legal minds, said that marijuana is medicine and can be regulated.
Yes.
Nixon decided to throw away the study, and in fact, he said that he decided that he will not follow the recommendation of the commission he set up, and instead he said that we should launch a war on drugs, and that is where the term war on drugs came
Started,
from.
yes.
That's where it started.
But you know, even in Southeast Asia, I used to live in Cambodia. I was there for 4 years, and I remember when I was there, you went to the public market, and marijuana was sold openly.
Yeah.
Because you know, traditionally, in other Asian countries, it has been used as you said, medicine, as a condiment, even for
right.
cooking.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, it really is very unfair, I think, to lump right marijuana with all these other dangerous narcotics, really, no?
Right. It's not only a question of being unfair, it is outright criminal to prevent people from having access to a plant that has the potential to address a lot of diseases. There is already very strong evidence that marijuana is effective in controlling nausea brought about by chemotherapy. In fact, the medicinal value of cannabis was discovered by AIDS patients who were taking retroviral drugs, and one of the side effects
yes.
was to throw up,
Yes.
to vomit.
Yes.
But some of them are stoners or recreational users of cannabis. Those who use cannabis do not experience the nausea. So that is how it started. Eventually, this campaign became so strong that California, 10 years ago, decided to allow the medical use of cannabis under a controlled government program.
Yes, yes.
So since that time, again, thank you to the United States, they are the ones leading now in changing the thinking about cannabis,
Yes.
starting with the medical cannabis program of California.
Yes.
Today, there are 23 states in the United States that allow for a certain form of medical cannabis,
Medical cannabis.
including also the District of Columbia, plus a territory, Guam, is already
Really?
allowing
Okay.
medical marijuana.
So
it's
let's
very
say for
good.
Filipinos who would like to try treatments, they can fly to Guam. I mean, if it's
yeah,
illegal, if
they
it's
could.
legal there, no?
Yeah, right.
That's an option. It's 3 hours away, or
yeah.
3 or 4 hours away.
There are a lot of Filipinos from California who've been getting in touch with us, offering their services to teach us how to grow the plant. Because, look, we have very good varieties in the Philippines, but we do not have experience yet in planting and
Yes.
cultivating and breeding.
Because it's been illegal.
Because it's illegal.
Yeah.
You do that, you get caught
Yep,
by
yep.
the DEA and PIDEA, and then you can, there's
That's
a
not a-
prison
that's not a good thing.
sentence.
I mean, it's a
not
serious
good
thing, not a good
It's not-
thing. No,
definitely
no.
not a good thing.
Chuck, we have paused our break, but
Sure.
when we come back, we're going to be talking more about this and also the different medical treatments that marijuana can offer. And we're going to have a colleague of yours, a doctor, who will join us as well. Okay, so guys, more of medical marijuana when we come back, so stay tuned.